Welcome to the final day here of the Utah Summer League in gorgeous Salt Lake City. Carl Schoening, happy you joined us for the podcast prior to the third game the Spurs are playing here at the Huntsman Center on the campus of the University of Utah. We are about an hour away from tip-off between the San Antonio Spurs Summer League team and the Philadelphia 76ers Summer League team. The Sixers come into this 0-2 in Summer League, and the Spurs have split their first two games so far. And the unfortunate news, we'll start it off, is the Spurs will not see first overall pick Markelle Fultz tonight. He is resting. He has a long week ahead of him after these two games here that he played. He will also be participating in the Vegas Summer League, but he certainly did make an impression on a lot of people out here as he started both games and really put on a show. Yesterday against Utah in 26 minutes, he had 23 points on 9 of 16 shooting and 4 of 8 from 3. He only went to the line once, but he's better at getting to the free throw line than that, and he knocked down that only free throw. He has 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 6 turnovers, but that's something that will sure to be shored up once he gets more familiar with the NBA system that he works with and has better players around him who also can just get a little more precise on the cuts, and he also figures out the speed of the NBA game. Will be a fun game tonight as we still do get to see a couple players here that have also impressed for the Philadelphia 76ers as Timothy Luau-Cabarrot. He's a long and athletic guard forward for the Sixers, who was a first-round pick last year, and he is getting more playing time. He's going to be part of that wing depth that the Sixers are building up, and really he does a lot well. He can shoot well. He can cut to the basket. He almost had a really athletic dunk in a critical moment yesterday. They played a thriller of a game against the Jazz, and overall he went 3 of 4 from 3, so he's going to be a good 3-and-D player for the Philadelphia 76ers, and soon we'll be joined by Brian Seltzer from Sixers.com and 76ers.com, and he'll definitely be someone who can give us a little bit more scouting report. Also playing in his first NBA game of sorts was the man from Turkey, Furkan Korkmaz. Korkmaz played overseas last year after being drafted by the Utah Jazz, and I just got a text from Brian. He'll be here at 4:10. So in the meantime, feel free to send me your tweets and ask any questions before we are joined by Brian. At K_show15, SCHO is how you spell show, play on my last name. And I'll be happy to answer any questions for the handful of you that are listening. Actually, no listeners so far, but this is obviously just going on and competing against the sports buffet. So hopefully Chris Duell hands off a few of the listeners over to me. But most of you are here to hear about how the Spurs did, and yesterday they had a convincing win over the Boston Celtics, led by Bryn Forbes, who in 29 minutes had 31 points, and he really played a solid overall game, creating space thanks to a lot of screens. The offense looked to be a lot more in order as opposed to the first game against the Jazz when the team looked out of sorts on both ends. And against the Celtics, going 6 of 8 from 3, Forbes did, and he also went 12 of 20 overall from the field. He runs that floppy action really well. In fact, I talked to him after the game, and he said that was his favorite play going back to college times, where he gets some screens that will free him up onto the wing, and he has a decision quickly to either shoot an open 3, or if he's being chased off that 3, he can try and penetrate into the paint and finish around the rim or maybe at the free throw line in the mid-range game. And he definitely has shown a lot of development in running that play, which the Spurs run a lot for Tony Parker back in his quicker days. And you'll imagine that they'll probably run it a good bit for DeJounte Murray and Bryn Forbes in the upcoming season. Another player who won't stand out in the box score, but definitely did a good job, is Jaron Blossomgame. In his 23 minutes, he scored 8 points on an effective 3 of 6 shooting. He made 2 of his 4 3-point attempts, and he really did a good job of guarding Jaylen Brown, who in 25 minutes only had 6 points and went 2 of 6 from the field, as opposed to his first game here in Utah when Jaylen Brown had 29 points in 30 minutes and shot 10 of 16. Brown is overall really too good to be here in Salt Lake City and playing in the Summer League. He was the third overall pick last year and got a lot of minutes on a contender, but he decided to get some playing time here, the Cal product, and he really showed out in his first game against the 76ers, going up against someone like Timothy Wau-Cabarrot, and he really put on a show for the fans here in Utah. But doing a good job yesterday was Blossom Game, and that's the kind of role Blossom Game is going to have to develop with the Spurs. He's not really going to be asked to do too much in terms of creating offense, but he will be asked to defend multiple positions, and he may even be asked to guard someone like Jaylen Brown, who will be projected to come off the bench for the Celtics next year. Right now, he's one of the Spurs' options there as wing depth for the Spurs as they're trying to figure out what's going on with players like Jonathan Simmons. So at the moment, if you look at the Spurs depth chart, they haven't signed him officially yet, but you would assume that Blossom Game is going to at least make the training camp roster, and doing things like that, going up against other small forward and guards like Jaylen Brown, playing good defense and knocking down those three-point shots when he has an opportunity, not forcing anything either, is going to be where Blossom Game really needs to work into his NBA role. And then he can work on developing his overall game as the Spurs have him in their system, and maybe he can learn how to tighten up his handle a little bit and get to the free throw line. Those kind of things will be good to help Blossom Game really evolve his game. But overall, he just needs to hit the threes when he gets a good look at them and not force anything if he does try and penetrate. There were a couple times where he maybe tried to do a little too much in terms of creating his own offense, but that comes back to overall just learning how to adjust to the NBA size and athleticism and speed. And I think Blossom Game is a good talent, especially for the Spurs who like to bring along talent slowly. So if Blossom Game isn't that high on the depth chart, Spurs don't typically play the rookies that often. You're going to see him in the G League with the Austin Spurs, and I imagine he'll be a good piece there for Coach Ken McDonald to really develop and try and be not just a scorer, but really develop into that 3 and D role, as the Spurs would like to have just a little bit more depth on that, especially considering how the roster is shaping up at the moment. The Spurs are probably going to be developing within using their draft picks more so than going out and getting players in the free agent market. Moving on to how the Spurs have played overall. The first game, as I mentioned, was a little bit rocky both ways. The Spurs kind of had a little trouble defending the rim and just chasing players off the three-point line. Derek White said in his first game that he was a little surprised by how quickly players were getting their shots off at this level, how he needs to really chase them off that line and work them into the paint and, try and help that his help is ready to go. Unfortunately, the Spurs do not have a rim protector with really good size on their roster. Starting at center for the Spurs the last few games has been Shane Whittington. He's 6'11", 250 out of Western Michigan. He has good size, and his offensive skill set isn't that bad, but his overall athleticism just isn't there yet. He's not particularly quick to help from the weak side, and he probably doesn't really have the vertical to really go up and block a shot at the rim. So really, he's going to need to figure out how to work his positioning and those kind of things to be real key in terms of developing within the Spurs system. The Spurs have a pretty simple system: hedge on ball screens, try and make sure that they don't give up middle. Really, they would have to deny one pass away, stay in an open stance 2 passes away. Those are typical Spurs ideologies on defense, and try and not give up anything real easy at the rim, and then hope that the defensive rotations really help out for the Spurs. But overall, the Spurs have really just have to figure out what they're doing with these players coming off the bench for them. One player that I'm surprised has not gotten a chance to play is Cleanthony Early out of Wichita State. Early, as we talked about in that first podcast, is kind of a tweener playing the 3 and the 4. If he could develop a three-point shot, that would do wonders for his game, but he's shot under 30% in his first 2 seasons in the NBA, and I think that that'll be the main key for him to really develop. And he has not gotten an opportunity to show what he can do here in Salt Lake City, so hopefully he gets an opportunity tonight. If not, in Vegas would be the good time for Cleanthony early to really get some minutes. And the Spurs, they don't have DeJounte Murray or any other players particularly on a minutes restriction, but they're just trying to work out the rotations, make sure that guys have opportunities. Only Jeff Ledbetter really came in minutes where he hadn't played all game and was coming off of the bench in that first game against the Jazz, and he really is somebody who needs to uh, just stay solid and be a point guard. He's on the Austin Spurs, and that's what his general job is. When he comes in, make sure he doesn't turn it over, doesn't force anything too much, and we'll see if he can develop. If he can get a little three-point shot and create his own space, that would really help Jeff Ledbetter. But those kind of players just have not really been getting too many minutes here in the Summer League in Utah. And coming over soon, we'll be joined by Brian Seltzer. He's finding his way over to the table now. And we will get on to the 76ers talk, as the Sixers have a lot of exciting moments coming up here in the upcoming season. Hey, there we go. Now we got Brian. And 1 second, let's get him all set up. You got
What's
me, Brian?
up?
Hey, how you doing?
Great.
It's Brian Seltzer, a must-follow for all things Sixers at Brian Seltzer, and that is spelled Brian Seltzer. And for Spurs fans who are unable to catch the game on NBA TV today, you are actually doing an audio stream on Sixers.com, aren't you?
The equipment and technological gods willing, yes, that is the objective and the goal.
Yes, we had our own technical difficulties, and we're happy that we were able to get on today. But yeah, that's definitely been something that I wish the Spurs had thought ahead a little bit and done, because I'm getting messages saying, I live in Brazil. I cannot catch the game on NBA TV because we don't get NBA TV. And now I'm I will find that guy on my Twitter feed and say, listen to Brian Seltzer. He used to do the Pin Quakers, is that correct?
Yes, back in another period and point in time, yep. Had one of the program's own, Jerome Allen, coaching the Summer Celtics against the Spurs yesterday. So that was nice to see.
Okay, yeah, so he has Division I experience, and he's a good broadcaster, and definitely great on content for everything Sixers. And what an exciting time it must be. I know you're a believer in the process, obviously, and now it seems like the process isn't quite finished, because y'all still have some first-round draft picks that you'll get to use, but overall, it looks like the roster's really come together.
It definitely seems like the foundation and a core is beginning to evolve that much more. I mean, the month of January for the Sixers in 2016-17 was probably like the month of from middle May to mid-June for what Spurs country is typically used to, because the Sixers went 10-5 in January. They beat some quality teams. They knocked off the Trailblazers, the Toronto Raptors. They were really, really competitive and arguably played their best basketball since, I want to say, maybe the 2011-12 season, which is the last time the teams made it to the playoffs. Joel Embiid was a literal and figurative huge part of that. His health is, not really going out on a limb by saying this, going to be paramount to whatever it is the Sixers do. But yeah, there's a lot of good momentum around the organization right now with him being in the fold, Ben Simmons set for his rookie season, and obviously you add a guy like Markelle Fultz, and there's players like Dario Saric there, and yeah, there have been some good things.
Yeah, the people who haven't gotten a chance to see Joel Embiid, I almost compare him to a new age Hakeem Olajuwon. I haven't seen such quickness on such a big guy since Hakeem, and that's a big inspiration for him, obviously, as he said he's watched tape of Hakeem, and you even see a little bit of the dream in him, don't you?
His fluidity is just, yeah, it takes you back, and you can't help but try and think out to what might be if he's able to really string a full season together. There was, I think it was either on his Instagram or Twitter yesterday, but you know, he was working out in the gym, and his ball handling skills are just like the fluidity that comes with it, the ease, the athleticism. For a guy who's 7'2", might even be closer to 7'3" right now, close to somewhere in that 2, maybe 80 to 290 range, does not come around a lot. And I think in addition to the potentially franchise-changing skill set that he has, he's got a awesome personality, and it not only resonates with the fan base, but he has a real command of the locker room as well. So if he's able to stay out there on the court and healthy, I would have to think that good things should be in the Sixers' future.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we didn't get to watch much of him outside of our summer league action here. But you and I got to experience just a taste of Ben Simmons, the number one overall pick in last year's draft, and we were just gushing over his size and skill set. He can legitimately play positions 1 through 5, can't he?
It seems like it, and it sounds like, based on everything that Brett Brown has said and Brian Colangelo, the Sixers president of basketball operations, has said, that they're going to designate him to be the primary ball handler at the outset of training camp and into the start of the season. Sixers aren't really getting caught up in labeling him a point guard or a point forward or a point center or a point swingman. Brian Colangelo wants versatility out on the courts. He wants guys that can play with pace and can pass and move the basketball, and they think that that's what they're going to get in Ben Simmons. But it's going to be really neat to see how he complements and works alongside the likes of someone of Markelle Fultz's ilk, given that Fultz is a guy who can play both on and off the ball.
Yeah, I've been talking to people, and it seems like Fultz is almost the perfect complement to Ben Simmons as kind of a combo guard where if you maybe do want to move Simmons over to a forward position, Fultz can come right in. And, that was seeming to be Colangelo's thinking going into trading for that number one overall pick. We're looking for that point guard, and that's something that the Sixers fans have probably been saying. We need a guard. We need some kind of point guard. Ish Smith did a good job in his stint there, and TJ McConnell had a lot of great games. In fact, he had some game winners, which I'm still sure the McConnell game winner with the Michael Jordan game-winning fist
That's right.
is the Joel Embiid's still Twitter icon. And
over Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah,
no less.
He had a couple game winners last year. So the process has really been a fun experience. I'm a Sixers fan because my dad is from Philly, so I watch them all the time. But people in Texas and the Western Conference in general don't get to watch the Sixers that much. They don't have much interest in it, but I get the feeling that it's not unfair for me to say that playoffs, maybe even home court advantage, could be in the cards next year for the Sixers.
Fans in Philadelphia definitely are thinking that, provided full health, and who knows what ends up becoming official once free agency really kicks off, that the Sixers, they could have a way of making a push into the top 8 in the Eastern Conference this year. The team felt like it might have had a shot at the postseason last year if they could have built off of January, but towards the end of the month, that's when Joel Embiid started to experience some issues with his knee and was ultimately shut down for the season. But I think even with Fultz, yes, he's a guy who can handle and gives the Sixers another facilitator out there on the floor, but as we even saw in the game last night, he's someone who can shoot. His college numbers were very efficient from outside the arc, and the Sixers really need shooters to complement guys like Embiid and Simmons, three-point shooters. They have one, they think, in Robert Covington, who for the better part of his career has been a 35-36% three-point shooter, someone who also is great defensively on the wings. But if they can add some shooting talent to this team, the Sixers believe that that should only allow the world to further go around that much more.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the upcoming season for the Sixers, and I'm appreciative that you found the time to come over and join us.
A pleasure. Apologies for the delay
no worries.
Sitting my rear down here.
Yeah, well, once again, it's at Brian Seltzer, a must-follow for Sixers fans, and I get the feeling there's going to be a lot more Sixers fans. Didn't y'all already report that it's 14,000 season tickets have been sold?
Sold out of season tickets at 14,000. The center, the building the Sixers play in South Philadelphia, holds around 20,000. So game in, game out, maybe only around 6,000 walk-up tickets available. So that's something that's really energized really the whole organization, the business side for sure, but you hear some of the front office executives on the basketball side talk about it. So yeah, the vibes and the biorhythms are good these days.
That's awesome. Well, appreciate your time, and we're pretty much done here on the podcast. I wanted to get you on. We have the Spurs and Sixers tonight. Unfortunately, Markelle Fultz, a no-go, but that's mostly because he has Vegas coming up as well, doesn't he?
Correct. The Sixers just want to make sure a blue chipper, they move him along at a gradual pace. So a lot of basketball still to come, hopefully, in his future.
For sure. Well, we appreciate it, and that'll pretty much do it for our podcast. I rambled on a little bit about the Spurs before you came on, but once again, where can the Spurs fans find the stream for this game before, if they want to listen to your broadcast of it?
They can go to Sixers.com. There's a link there, and also we do a stream on Facebook Live. So if you go to facebook.com/Sixers or just type in Sixers, go to the Sixers official page and the stream. Again, knock on plastic, knock on wood, whatever's around. we will have that up and running
And,
tonight.
and you had Elton Brand on there the other day, or yesterday, didn't you?
Yep, he came on at the half. We had Zach Harper from FanRag yesterday, and I think we might have Kevin Pelton from ESPN, who's a Pacific Northwest guy and has seen a lot of Markel Fultz, so I think we
Awesome.
have him on tonight.
Great. Well, yeah, it'll be a good broadcast and hopefully a good game. The Sixers 0-2, but they've come really close to winning their 2 games here in Salt Lake City. So hopefully we have another competitive game in it tonight.
Amen.
Yep, for sure. Well, that was Brian Seltzer. I'm Carl Schoening. We appreciate you tuning in to this podcast. Just a brief one. Thank you for the 3 listeners that listened live. The good thing about YouTube, it'll be up for forever.
It's true.
One day we can go 10 years from now. We'll be able to look back and say, "Oh, remember that podcast? Let's go back and listen to it and hear how young we sounded."
3's better than none. It might be my mom, dad, and wife. Who knows?
Yeah, there you go. Well, we appreciate you all listening, and we appreciate all the Spurs and Sixers fans that will be tuning in to Brian's broadcast tonight. For Carl Schoening and iHeartMedia, thank you for listening.